Talking about urban areas such as this one, this is a small urban area. It's not huge, it's a small town. I could literally, if I started running right now, I could be well out of the main city area in less than 10 minutes if I just started beating feet. And that would be my tactic if I was on my own. I didn't have anybody else to worry about it, didn't have a wife that can barely walk because of a crippled knee. I didn't have little kids that I needed to help transport out of here. If I was on my own or if I was with other fit individuals, it would just be beat feet and get out of here as fast as possible. Considering the provisions that you have, how far do you have to go to get out of this urban area? Who knows what the situation is? Let's say that there's been some sort of attack. Let's say there's a bomb going off. Let's say invading forces have come to your area and taken over the city. Who knows what the situation is, but if you're caught in an urban area surrounded by thousands and if not millions of people, there's going to be a lot of chaos going on. And depending on the things that you have in your pockets, the things that you can carry on your back, it's going to dictate what your decisions are. You could obviously scavenge and scrounge, preferably not steal. My wife says that my camouflage vest is tacky with my plaid shirt. I disagree. I look good. A lot of prepper channels and stuff are just going to tell you to get out of the city and don't be in the city in the first place, and you'll avoid all of these problems, and they are right. However, many of you live in urban areas, and your life decisions, your jobs require you to be in these urban areas, and who am I to tell you that you've made a poor choice? You do you. With that said, if you are in an urban area and you frequent urban areas or you live in an urban area, you need to have some plans. You need to have a way to get out of that urban area as quickly as possible, because that's where the problems are going to break out first, and the most problems are going to be there. So how are you going to get out? What's your routes? What's your alternate route? What's your tertiary route to get out of this city? Are you going to drive? What happens if your car doesn't work? What happens if your tires are all flat? What happens if for whatever reason you're blocked in and you have to be on foot? Or do you have a bicycle that you could ride out of town? An electric bike, a motorcycle? All of these things I think are something that we could possibly consider. Like I said, if I was in this town right here for whatever reason, I could literally, if my vehicle wasn't working, I could just run in a straight, the fastest way out of here, and I would be out of this urban area in less than 10 minutes, for sure. It's important to dress appropriately regardless of what you anticipate being the situation, so if I'm in the downtown area and let's say I'm going to a restaurant or going to a concert or something like that, I'm still going to dress in a way that I can be active and able to move to and fro. If I needed to run right now, I could run right now, no problem. And I know this for a fact because I have trained in the clothing that I'm wearing right now. I know it's possible for me to do that. I can jump, I can run, I can climb, I could do all the things. So I think that's important. The stuff that's in your pockets and on your belt, I think you always need to be smart about that and be as prepared as possible. I don't want you to walk around life being paranoid, of course, but I want you to be as prepared as possible for any and all situations that may come your way, and I want you to anticipate the most likely situations that may come your way. So let's say something was to go on in this town right now and some chaos was to break out. My immediate action would be to gather up my loved ones. My wife is with me right now. I would gather her up as quickly as I possibly can and potentially, depending on where the danger is, get back to our vehicle and then get out of here as quickly as possible. But maybe that's not an option. I might have to literally tote her out of here. And another reason why it's important to train and be fit, if I had to carry her a certain distance because of her knee that recently had surgery on it, a swollen bum knee, she can't run. She's not going to be able to do that. She's going to walk very, very slowly. And maybe that's what we have to do. And maybe if it's too great of a distance, maybe we have to find a safe place where we can lay low for a little bit and rest up, rehydrate, refuel, that kind of thing. These are all things that we kind of need to consider, and it's all going to be situationally dependent. So I think I've discovered the ultimate urban truck. 1, it's maneuverable. In and out of small spaces, parallel parking, no problem. 2, tons of storage capacity. 3, chicks are really going to dig it. What do you think? Ultimate urban vehicle? Let me know in the comments.
Sweet.
is awesome. Look at those. You recording?
Mm-hmm.
Look at those rims. Just look at them.
Dang.
Man, this thing is sweet. I'd say one of the most important things to carry on your person all the time is a flashlight, like this one right here. Because in urban areas, regardless of daytime or nighttime, there are really dark places. Inside of a building without electricity is a dark, dark cavern. So having a flashlight is really a really important thing. And if you live in an urban area, you should never be without a flashlight. That's just my opinion. Having a way to protect yourself, defend yourself, also super important. But I'd say above that, having a way to see where you're going is going to be a big deal. You may be in an area where it is deemed illegal to carry a weapon of some sort. Improvising a weapon such as this is pretty simple. I could keep this in my hand as some sort of bludgeoning device. I could throw this. This stuff is going to be everywhere. So food and water are two considerations that are pretty important, especially if you're having to cover some serious ground. If you're having to go a long, long ways, food is going to be important. But primarily what you're concerned with is going to be water. Where are you going to find water? And when you do find water, what are you going to do with it to purify it, to make it safe to drink? Because if the world is in chaos, well, city water, for one, is generally not that good for you anyway with all the crap they put in it. But in a world full of chaos and turmoil, the water supply system might be tainted in some way, and you might need to have a way to filter it. So I always suggest that you carry water purification tablets. At a minimum, having a water filter is a really, really good idea, such as a Grail that I keep in my pack that's in my truck. But on my person, in a Wazoo cash belt, I typically carry a water bag and water purification tablets, so I can at least eliminate some of the waterborne pathogens that might make me sick down the line. So if you're being active and you're on foot and you're having to move through an urban area, you're going to need water. That's going to be a requirement. How much can you carry? Probably not that much. What's the availability of water sources in your area? Here, there's creeks and streams all over the place. Even in a more urban setting such as this one, there's creeks and streams where I can dip into them, filter them, and be on my way. That may not be the situation where you live. You might have to dip into water fountains and tap into the building's water supplies. You might have to be tapping into water heaters and things like that inside of the buildings themselves. So I just, literally while I was talking about water, I didn't even notice it until just now. But look at this. Let's see if we get any luck. No love. No love out of the spigot. I'm not super surprised. Let's talk about food for a second. Rarely do people carry food as part of their EDC. It's just not something people do. It's not convenient. It just doesn't make a lot of sense. In a pack, yeah, maybe you'll carry some rations in there. You'll throw some bars, some Cliff bars and things of that nature, so you can have some emergency rations. In your vehicle, you can keep everything from freeze-dried meals to canned goods and all that kind of stuff. You can be well stocked in your vehicle. So these are all things to consider. I definitely highly recommend that you carry calorie-dense foods, something with a lot of bang for the buck. I think that's really, really important because it's just going to get you the furthest. Not always necessarily the healthiest route and stuff like that, but that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about emergency food. So stuff with high calories, high protein, fats, all that stuff is going to give you the juice that you need to keep moving. Outside of restaurants, outside of grocery stores, convenience stores, there's going to be dumpsters where they throw away stuff that's been expired. And you might potentially be able to tap into that as some sort of refuel, resupply source. Not always the case. Oftentimes they're locked down tight and you can't get access to them. So that's a problem. But that is why I always recommend that you have some food in your vehicle with you all the time. Because one, if your primary mission is just to get the heck out of Dodge in a hurry, which is what I would suggest, highly suggest, you want to have that on you. You don't want to be taking time to find food, right? It's going to be exposing you longer periods of time to potential danger. I found a snack. Look at this.
So to dance. Put it down. Don't you dare do it. I will not. Guys.
Communications is another big one. So let's say your cell phones aren't working for whatever reason and you would like to have some information on what's going on. You heard explosions, you see the smoke, things are on fire, people are losing their minds, but you have no idea really why or what's going on, when it's going to come to an end, if it ever is going to end. Having a radio that you could just listen to, maybe get some news information, whether you can believe it or not, that's a separate point, but at least having some intel on what's going on, so you're just not blind, just wandering around the city blind. Maybe your plan is to head east, and east is the most dangerous place that you could possibly go, but you don't know that until you're there. So having some intel on what's going on around you, I think, is important. So cell phone, obviously, it's what we're all going to use to get information if it's possible, but having a radio backup, I think, is a big deal. So maybe driving out of town is not an option, and you are on foot or on a bicycle or something like that, some other means of conveyance, human-powered conveyance. Finding a place to lay low for a bit is going to be tricky. Finding a safe place to lay low for a bit is going to be really tricky. If you're on your own, it's going to be really, really tricky. So I'd always suggest that you have somebody with you if possible. At least one person, the more the merrier, I think, in a situation like that, because there's definitely strength in numbers. While one of you is getting some rest, one person can kind of be on watch and cycle through that way. That way you're going to be a little bit safer. In an urban area, there's always green spaces. There's always little small green patches of concealment where you can tuck in for the night and just kind of stay under the radar. Inside of buildings is always going to be tougher, because inside of buildings there's going to be people. And you might be able to stumble across the perfect spot where you can lock the doors and be safe and secluded, but that's going to be easier said than done. Here's an option for sheltering that just came to me. No one's really going to look for you up on top of this building over here, so I could very easily hop on top of that fence right there, on top of that little lean-to roof, and then on top of this building over here with a flat roof, head towards the middle of it and camp out on top of there, assuming I had some way to protect myself from the elements, obviously. And then no one's going to see me up there. No one's going to be looking on top of that building for me. Your results may vary depending on what kind of urban setting you're in, but in this location right here, that would probably be a win. If you're dressed appropriately, most likely you could probably spend the night out, depending on the city that you're in. Depending on, whether it's facing sub-zero temperatures and raining and all that kind of stuff. So depending on the elements, you might be able to spend the night out and not have to worry about it. You could always scavenge trash bags and things. Like, I'm looking at a couple of dumpsters right now that have 55-gallon drum liners inside of them. I could take that out of there, empty the contents out, and there I've got a ready-to-go shelter. So these are all just things that I'd be considering, and I'd be weighing out my options and looking at the priorities depending on what that situation is. Is my priority water right now? Is my priority food? Is it shelter, security, first aid? Am I injured in some way? All of these things that would just have to be considered, and depending on the situation, your priorities are going to change. Oftentimes in urban areas, the more affluent areas, the nicer areas, the safer areas are at a higher elevation. They're higher up. If you walk down the hill, going towards the lowlands, the bottomlands, where the railroad tracks are, that's going to be the less safe, less affluent areas. So just keep that in mind when you're in urban areas and you're trying to get away from danger. Perhaps heading downhill, taking the path of least resistance down the hill, may not be the best choice. Maybe marching up the steep hill to get up to the higher class neighborhoods might be the smartest thing to do. Now, as far as evacuating out of a town with your vehicle, if that's an option and you're not blocked in, broke down, whatever, having a gray man type vehicle, I think, is a pretty smart option as well, so you can kind of blend in and you don't really stand out. My truck is the opposite of that. It kind of sticks out like a sore thumb. However, it is a big, beefy, four-wheel drive truck with huge, heavy steel bumpers, and I could push pretty much any vehicle that I'm looking at on the road right now. I could probably push them out of the way without a problem and keep on trucking. So I guess there is an option. Having a first aid kit in an urban area is really, really important. Motor vehicle accidents, in times of chaos, people are going to be driving like crazy people. And being able to treat a wound caused by a motor vehicle accident is definitely a must. If we're talking about some sort of terror attack, gunshots, whatever, this can solve a lot of those problems. It's fairly portable and it's very comprehensive and can solve a lot of medical issues, just having something like this. This is my pack that I carry with me in my truck all the time. And it, you know, a lot of people talk about the gray man blending in and all that kind of stuff. And I get that. I think that that's definitely a thing. It's definitely more a thing when you're in an urban area. But this pack has everything that I need to sleep outside. And even in the wintertime, I'm not going to die if I had this pack right here. It's got a lot of my supplies in here. But I could always gray man this up a little bit more if I simply just took this off, got rid of this camouflage veil right here, got rid of that. Now I've got just, you know, it's a brown bag. It's not that big a deal. You know, people aren't going to look twice at this. It's small, it's light, it's compact. And if my primary mission in an urban area was to get the heck out of Dodge as fast as possible, I'm going to want to be as streamlined as possible. I'm going to want to be as light and as slick as I can so I can get out of here in a hurry. I don't want a giant big rucksack. Talking about being the gray man, let's say this town was under attack. Let's say there was some sort of terrorist attack and we've got that to worry about. That's a big concern. But not only do we have to worry about that, we also have to worry about the locals acting like crazy people and rioting and looting and taking advantage of a very stressful, terrible situation. And so it's important to kind of blend in for that reason and not look like a target. Carry yourself proudly, walk tall, have your head on a swivel, always being aware, just basic situational awareness stuff, and not carrying around some giant big jumbo pack that looks like it has a lot of valuable things in it. So unfortunately, we've got to worry about a lot of people doing bad things in urban areas, and not just, you know, in a wilderness setting, we've got to worry about, you know, the elements killing us. In an urban setting, we've got to worry about the elements killing us, and we've also got to worry about the people. So that makes it really troublesome. Anyway, I hope this video has been somewhat helpful, insightful in some way. I hope maybe it has inspired you to develop some sort of emergency action plan to get you and your loved ones out of an urban area. Please leave it in the comment section if you have any questions. Love to talk about some things in the comment section. Please hit the thumbs up, subscribe if you haven't done so already, and I can't wait to see you on the next one. I'm Jason Salyer with Survival Dispatch. As a Survival Dispatch insider, you'll be able to gain the knowledge, the skills, and equipment necessary to protect your family when it really, really matters. They'll provide crucial information on such things as stockpiling food, medical necessities, communication plans. You will receive specific, actionable plans that can deliver proven techniques to help you get home, shelter in place, or bug out safe.